Ahoy, sailors! And if you wanted to learn how to steal content like the best of them, watch this video for a deep dive into how to steal content the best. Today, we are reacting to Locked On Mariners 2024-2025 off-season plan. Colton, are you ready to hear at least 4 ad reads during our watching of this?
I've never been more ready in my life. Can we insert our own ad reads?
Yeah, like I'll put an ad break right now.
You're not a child, you're a man. So stop wearing so many layers.
We're kidding.
Oh, we were? I want the money.
Okay, my bad. I don't know how the audio is going to be, but we'll just kind of keep it right there. Tell me if I need to turn it up for you specifically. Ty and Colby, they never disappoint as far as trade deadline, offseason plan stuff, and they totally appreciate us reacting to their stuff, right?
Do you think they call us out in this?
Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I kind of, like, would you make a bet on Bet Online?
The game starts.
There's our ad read. If they're going to call us out in this, I hope they do.
I hope they do as well. All right. I'm going to start it.
So if we were in the shoes of Jerry DiPoto and Justin Hollander, how would we attack this offseason?
What do you mean you can't hear it?
Well, today we're going to...
Hold on.
You just ruined Ty's intro. That's crazy.
Tell you just that. Our Mariners offseason plan is coming right up. Colby, hit it.
I'm doing tricks on it.
Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked
Your
On
team.
Podcast Network. Your team.
Your
every
team
day.
every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Wednesday, November 6, 2024. This is Teddy Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast.
Colby looks like...
part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to our title sponsor today, FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Just click the link in the description of this episode. So basically, we try to balance reality and fun. So like, we're not going to, sign Juan Soto and sign Alex Bregman. We're not going to do that, but we also want to be able to have at least some fun. So we've given ourselves maybe a little bit more room with the payroll than maybe Jerry DiPoto and Justin Hollander actually have to work with. $150,000 buyout. And obviously all that stuff is now official in the real world, but at the time that we were making this plan, it wasn't. So we already had accounted for that. So yeah, we started essentially at 128 after factoring in the 4 obvious tenders. We have projected lineups. We have the names of all the guys that we considered, both in trade and free agency. And speaking of free agency, we didn't add a free agent. Every single acquisition is a trade today, folks.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Didn't
We did
do
talk
minor
about a
league
lot of
free
free
agents,
agents,
what
but
nerds.
again,
Yeah,
money is a factor, and free agents
Congrats.
are unfortunately too expensive for John Stanton.
It's a bad strategy.
So let's just get the first moves out of the way. We are DFAing and releasing Mitch Haniger. He doesn't fit our roster. He doesn't fit the vision that we have for the roster. We are also non-tendering Josh Rojas, Trent Thornton, JT Chargois, Austin Voth, and Sam Haggerty. And we're making a couple of minor league additions to the 40-man roster, just to fill out the 40-man roster. We're acquiring utility man Tim Tawa from Arizona. He's a Rule 5 eligible player who hit pretty well down in the minors this past year. And then we had to add a favorite of Colby's, Austin Shenton, who has some major league experience, about 16 games, I think, major league experience. Former Mariners prospect, of course, was traded in the Diego Castillo trade. We are reacquiring him, just like we did last offseason plan as well. We are acquiring him from the Rays for outfield prospect Carlos Jimenez.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause it there. Get our first little break. Non-tendering Josh Rojas, huh?
I'm interested to see what that means for the rest of the infield, because you're going to need now a third baseman.
Yeah, or second baseman, either side,
second baseman.
whichever one.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Is that Austin Shenton?
Can he play third? I thought he was only first base.
He was a third baseman coming up. I'm not sure if he is only first base now, but he was a third baseman when he was in the Mariners system.
Got it. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I would be inclined to tender Josh Rojas and then trade him. If I was just gonna non-tender him, I would just try and use him in a trade package to get other stuff around, but we'll see where they kind of go. No free agents is kind of crazy.
That's wild. Yeah. I think I think that's probably pretty unlikely. And I think they would agree with that. Like there will be probably a free agent or two out of this team, it might even just be the bullpen.
Yeah.
But they'll probably add somebody even to the pile that if it somehow makes a team out of spring training. So, and I'm sure they are fully aware. They probably agree with that. So, I mean, interesting. That piqued my interest more than anything else because I love trades. They're so much more fun than free agent signings. So now to know that they're going to do only trades, I'm so in.
We got time here in the first segment to at least go over one trade. So let's do it. We're acquiring Brandon Lowe. We acquired Brandon Lowe, I think 2 offseason plans ago, or maybe it was a trade deadline plan. I can't remember, but we really like Brandon Lowe. We are trading Jeter Martinez and Tyler Guff to the Tampa Bay Rays. A couple of pitching prospects who are a little ways away from the bigs. Martinez more than Guff, but yeah. Lowe obviously gives us a solution at second base. There are injury concerns here, but he's a guy that provides power that you typically don't get at the second base position. You get him for $10.5 million this year. There's another club option next year as well. So he doesn't just have to be a stopgap. This is kind of a similar idea to Jorge Polanco. We're basically trying that again because options are very limited, as we've talked about on this show, at both second base and third base. And you'll see what we're doing about third base here in a little bit. But yeah, Brandon Lowe, Seattle Mariner.
Pretty popular one. A one that I feel like we've all talked about quite a bit, and it makes a lot of sense. The package, however, I find interesting, but I don't disagree with it because of the money that Brandon Lowe is owed over this year and then the potential for the option next year, because we know the Rays already picked up his option this year. So Tyler Guff and Jeter Martinez, a couple of pitchers in the Mariners organization. I'm not sure where they're ranked right now in the top 30. But I think it makes sense. And with the Rays pitching lab, they'll probably turn at least Jeter Martinez into something in the next couple of years. But Brandon Lowe, you're taking on that entire $10.5 million contract right there, which is a bit scary. Looking at what that means for the payroll moving forward, I'm sure the guys will have a way to kind of mitigate that. But overall, no, I think I think he is the most obvious fit that is a possibility in the trade market, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And I think it makes sense to communicate the idea that it's running back the Jorge Polanco roster fit as well. Does make a lot of sense. Guff is the 17th ranked prospect in the Mariners system, and then Jeter Martinez is 18th. It's an immediate no for me because I love Jeter Martinez, but I get where they're going because there are 2 pitchers that the Mariners one will not use, and the Rays, they covet their very young, controllable players that then can develop. They can develop in their own system. And then Lowe, they're not going to want to pay him that 10.5. They know that there are suitors out there for second base. So Lowe does make a ton of sense.
Another thing it does is it takes somebody off their 40-man roster when it comes to their roster crunch they always have going into the Rule 5 draft. Jeter Martinez is down in rookie ball and Tyler Guff's down in A ball. Tyler Guff's expected in 2026, so not even coming up this year. Martinez in 27. So it gives them plenty of time to work those guys through their system. No, I think it's a great trade.
Yeah. Ty pretty much said it all, but we've been after Lowe for a while now. The Rays are going to trade him this winter. They're not going to carry his $10 million. They picked it up simply because they knew they could trade him. He might cost more than this. We're just guessing, but again, the Rays typically they prefer bulk to just kind of one true name prospect. Essentially, we talked about this. There's just not a lot of options at second base and third base, so you kind of have to take a shot on something. And so in this case, you're taking a shot kind of on Lowe's health, understanding that he's probably going to miss some time, but when he does play, he's going to be an above average offensive player.
So there you have it. Brandon Lowe fits pretty well for the Mariners, fits pretty well for our vision for this roster. We're going to get into the rest of our trade ideas in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is once again brought to you by FanDuel.
Does that count as
Get
two?
ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel,
America's
ad. #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in
this
bonus
episode
bets if
of
you win.
The
FanDuel
Mariner
Sportsbook app
Mojo
gives you everything you
episode
need to
is
place
brought to you
live
by
bets on
Diet
the
Pepsi.
NFL. We just went over some house cleaning items like releasing Mitch Haniger, non-tendering a few guys, all of that. Couple of minor league trades. We also unveiled our first major league trade, our first big trade.
Why are we getting like an episode recap after an ad? Like it's an episode of like Dragon Ball Z. Last time on Dragon Ball Z, Goku was powering up. That's what happened.
Why are you laying into Ty right now?
Because I love him.
For Brandon Lowe of the Tampa Bay Rays. So we have our second baseman. Now let's move on here to another pretty interesting trade. Now, when you see this trade, you're gonna think, oh, so that is what they're doing at third base. Nope.
No.
This isn't the third base solution here, folks. We are acquiring Jake Burger from the Miami Marlins, along with right-handed reliever Anthony Bender. But Burger, not good at third base. He has played it a lot. He's not good at third base. He is going to DH and play first base for us, and maybe occasionally stand at third base. But he's going to play there very rarely. And we are trading Ty Pete, Ben Williamson, and Brock Roden, recent Gold Glove winner, to Miami for Bender and Burger. And Burger is pre-arb still, which was very important to us. While there are a ton of options at that position that we could have gone after and not traded prospects for, we wanted to spend our resources at second base and third base because the options are so limited at both of those positions.
Right. Could we have gone and gotten Justin Turner? Sure. That would have cost us $7 million. And we wouldn't have the $7 million that we did end up spending to upgrade the team somewhere else, which I think we're going to get into here pretty quick. But yeah, so you'll see why we didn't just go that route. And if the Mariners do go that route and they just want to bring back Turner or Santana, like, we're totally fine with that too. Just eliminates one of the things that we wanted to do, which ended up costing roughly about the same amount that Santana or Turner would. So we decided to go a different direction.
And we also get a really interesting reliever in Bender out of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Burger's, going to hit 250. His on-base percentage is going to be in the low 300s. He doesn't walk a ton. Strikeouts aren't a huge problem for him, but he will strike out some. And he's going to hit, 25 home runs. That's pretty much what he does, 250, 300 with, 25-ish home runs, maybe 30 in a good year. So, yeah, he's first base DH type. He's very Ryan Healy like. So you guys remember Ryan Healy.
Yikes. Is that supposed to inspire confidence?
Number 27, by the way. Ryan Healy is a very nice guy. I met him. Very nice. Let's talk about this a little bit because I am personally not on board. Personally.
Yeah, it's an interesting route to fill your second first baseman.
It makes sense.
Yeah, in practice. I think you're giving up a fair bit for a pre-arb guy, like they're saying, which is why he's so expensive. He's a hitter who's in pre-arb. Of course, the position he plays is not really calculated into his value. It's more so his bat and how much club control he has. I don't know a lot about Anthony Bender, off the top of my head, but I appreciate that. You're giving up Ty Pete, who's top 15. You're giving up Ben Williamson, who's also close to top 15, if not in the top 15. I think he's right around that range. And then Brock Rodden, he's, I think, 22nd overall. He is 15th. Yeah. So you're
Ben Williamson's 15th.
You're giving up a pretty solid prospect package, which I think makes sense for the controllable player that you're getting in Jake Burger. I just don't know if he himself and what he does on the baseball field is really worth those three guys. But if Bender is the big deal breaker here, as far as how that adds up, we'll see.
He will be a free agent after 2027. So you'd have him for 3 years. In 2024, didn't have his best year, but still put up a 1.11 ERA plus, 53 innings pitched. He gave up 50 hits while striking out 59. So good K per 9 there at 10. Yeah, he's got good stuff. He's got really good stuff. Max exit velocity was at 115.7 though in 2024, which is bottom 8% of the MLB.
Just threw a meatball to someone.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Aaron Judge.
Yeah, this is them just kind of replacing Chargois with another Marlins reliever. They non-tendered him. And maybe this is their Chargois replacement. I mean, there's still lots of holes that they're going to fill, and I'm sure it's we're only a third of the way through their plan, so we've got a lot of time to go. But any remaining thoughts on this before we kind of hear what else they have to say?
I mean, just in terms of what you're giving up, Ty Pete, your number 11, Williamson 15, Rodden 22. Like that's a lot to give up for a couple of guys but this is also the problem with the way the Mariners operate. You can't afford guys on the free agent market. I would say you go sign Jake Berger for, under $10 million on the free agent market, but you don't have $10 million to play with. So
Yeah.
they specifically went this route because they basically add nothing to the payroll. But you having to give up 3 guys in your top 25 is a bit scary to me.
With a pretty wicked breaking ball. I
went too far ahead
here, and at least his ability to go stand at third base for a game or two a month is somewhat valuable. And then Anthony Bender is just kind of your prototypical like 7th inning guy with a pretty wicked breaking ball. Ironic since his last name is Bender. He's pretty good at it. So this is a guy that I think the Mariners are going to have interest in. In general, he's only making $1.1 million this year. He helps, give some middle leverage impact to this ball club, what you could need or what you could use. And the sweeper, again, pretty good pitch, not an elite pitch, but a 31% whiff rate on that pitch. And opponents hit 163 with a 272 slug on the sweeper. So Bender, again, kind of more of a 7th inning guy, but maybe he pushes Colin Snyder down to a more regular role. He's not the guy we need to add to the back end of the bullpen to really help out Andres Munoz, but he is a guy who lengthens the bullpen, gives you some insurance in case of a step back from Snyder or another injury from Gabe Spire or whatever. And you guys remember we non-tendered most of the middle relief options, so we needed to find one. And Bender is making less than all 3 of the guys that we non-tendered.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's probably about as good, if not a little bit better than those guys.
This is going to be maybe a controversial trade for some of you. It's certainly pricey. This is our biggest trade of the offseason plan. We are acquiring utility man Brendan Donovan, who is going to play third base for us. He played mostly outfield this year for the Cardinals, but can play second, can play some third. We're also acquiring Ryan Helsley, who's on the last year of his club control, projected to make $6.9 million. Donovan is projected to make 3.6, by the way, by MLB Trade Rumors. We are trading Cole Young to the Cardinals. We are trading Gregory Santos to the Cardinals, and we are trading Logan Evans to the Cardinals.
I don't want to hear their thoughts. I want to get your gut reaction, like your first reaction, because you celebrated.
I've been pounding the table for Brendan Donovan for years. Utility guy, great hitter. I think that he makes a lot of sense in the Mariners lineup. Now, he did have Tommy John surgery a year and a half ago, or something like that. But he's back to, playing out in the field, so that's great for him. The package-wise, like Cole Young, Santos, Evans, the only one I'm even bummed about giving up is Young. I don't care about giving up the other 2. Really don't. I would trade them in pretty much any package. Like, Ryan Helsley, great back end of the bullpen guy to pair with Andres Munoz, like they said. Gregory Santos didn't do anything for you last year. Cool. Don't care. He's gone. Whatever. Logan Evans, he could be nothing. Like, we have a starting rotation that's chock full of guys. Sure, you need to go add to your starting rotation. But in my opinion, this is Cole Young, basically, for Brendan Donovan and Ryan Helsley. And yeah, I'm all in for that because you get Brendan Donovan. I'm sure they'll talk about how much longer. You'd have him for a few more years, I believe. Ryan Helsley, this might be the last year of his deal.
It is.
But Brendan Donovan's a guy that I think makes a ton of sense. He can play pretty much anywhere in the infield for you and even the outfield. Offensively, he has been a great player over the past couple of years. He's not going to light the world on fire, but he is consistent. He smacks the ball all over the ballpark. I think that he makes a lot of sense for this Mariners lineup, and I think he's a perfect guy to put in there at either a middle infield spot or at third base. Yeah, no, I do this trade immediately.
I think what it does is it's similar to how we kind of lauded the Gregory Santos trade last offseason. Like, you traded Prelander Baroa for the person you hope he develops into. You were trading Cole Young for a player maybe like a little bit lower of a ceiling, but you're getting that level of production that you think you could get out of Cole Young now instead of in 2.5 years. You are getting a better back end. Like, Ryan Helsley's been top 3, top 5 back end leverage closers for the last couple of seasons. Like, was lights out for the Cardinals last year. Obviously, they're trying to trim down their payroll, so you're upgrading in the bullpen, and then you're giving up Logan Evans. Sure, guy that burst onto the scene last year, like jumped up a lot of rankings, but you still have enough, I think, in the chamber for pitching depth that will be ready in a year and a half, 2 years time. So you don't really need him. I like the trade. I'm just surprised Cole Young gets moved, but I get why they needed to, because you're getting what you need Cole Young to be in 2 years right now.
And you have Donovan through 2027. This is a guy who hit 278, 342, 417 for a 112 OPS plus. Not a huge power guy, but the most of his career this year with 14. Doesn't strike out much at all. Only struck out 81 times in 153 games. He was a Gold Glover his rookie year in 2022. Like, Brendan Donovan might be one of the most underrated players in baseball, in my opinion. Never had an OBP lower than 342, which was this year. And he had a career high 34 doubles this year. He's a gap guy. So I think Brandon Donovan is exactly what you hope Cole Young can be in a couple years. Honestly, even the power output, I think, is fine. Mm-hmm. If he's a gap guy, 34 doubles, like, I think that Brendan Donovan is what we expect Cole Young to be in 2026, 2027. But you could get that guy right now. And honestly, if you're the Mariners, you need that guy right now.
We're trading Logan Evans to the Cardinals. On the Cole Young front, essentially our thought process here is, don't you kind of hope that Cole Young ends up becoming Brendan Donovan?
What, like, come on.
There it is. There it is.
Welcome to Locked On Mariners 2. We've got ahoy,
Locked
sailors.
On Mariner Mojo.
Yeah. The same brain. I mean, it's a sound process that I think we can kind of deduce, like, what they're trying to do. Like, it just made sense.
At least with the bat.
Yeah, more or less.
So nonchalant.
Yeah, so you're trading some club control here. Obviously, you're giving up 6 years of Evans and Young, both of whom could and probably will make their major league debut at some point in 2025, and you're giving up 4 years of Santos for just 1 year of Helsley. But this is the type of move you make when you are trying to win a division, when you're trying to go to the World Series. You go and you trade what a player could be for what a player already is, and you make moves like this. So, we saw at the deadline, teams were not willing to trade top 100 guys. Cole Young is very much easily in the top 100, pretty much every publication, and he is close to major league ready. So if you're the Cardinals and you just kind of want to reset the clock, you get a guy who could be Brendan Donovan, as soon as 2025, 2026, but you don't have to pay him what you're going to pay Brendan Donovan for at least 3 more years, probably 4, because it's not likely Young is going to be on their opening day roster. Evans is a pretty interesting pitching prospect. The Cardinals need pitching, more particularly they need young, cheap pitching. They're already looking to shed some payroll. We know that they're kind of doing a soft step back thing, and they've been shopping Arenado. Good luck to them on that front. They've shopped, they're shopping Sonny Gray. So if they trade one of those two guys, if they're able to move one of those contracts, doesn't make it less likely that they would move Donovan and Helsley. Yeah, probably, but that's why you have to be somewhat aggressive, at least to start, to grab their attention. So do you want to trade 6 years of maybe Brendan Donovan for 3 years of Brendan Donovan? Yeah, if you're a World Series contender, if you think that's what you're going to be this year, yeah, you probably make that trade. And then Helsley is just the he is in that Andres Munoz tier, and you give 2 of those guys in the back end who a little bit safer than Santos. So you're trading some club control for safety and just a better pitcher overall. So Helsley and Munoz in the back end of that bullpen. And then hopefully at some point next year, you can also add Matt Brash. Now you've added Anthony Bender. You have Snyder back. You can kind of start to build out this bullpen in the back end and go like, this is a legitimate, 1-2 punch in the bullpen, potentially a 1-2-3 punch in the back end of the bullpen by the middle of the year. And that's not counting guys like Troy Taylor, who you think could take another step forward. So yeah, this is about building a really good bullpen and putting some high floor guys around the infield who, help you right now. And you're going to sacrifice a little bit in the future to do that, because 6 years for Cole Young for 3 years of Brendan Donovan in a vacuum, you'd probably rather have Cole Young. But we don't operate in a vacuum. We're trying to win baseball games in 2025, 2026. Donovan is much more likely to do that for us than Cole Young, even though I like Cole Young quite a bit.
Look, this team as you're going to see, is going to crush right-handed pitching. Lefties is kind of a wait and see, but we do have an answer to that a little bit. At least we think so. We really like this next guy here, Nick Gonzalez, who we are primarily looking to platoon with Brandon Lowe at second. Lau's numbers against lefties, very inconsistent. He has had some success against lefties. He had some success in limited opportunities this year against lefties, but overall, he's probably a guy that needs to be platooned with. And so our weak side platoon option here is Nick Gonzalez, and we are trading Tyler Locklear. So we're trading something pretty nice here for Nick Gonzalez, but he has 5 years left. So you have to come to the table pretty serious here. And Locklear was someone that, especially after adding Berger, we felt we could part with pretty easily. And also kind of fits what the Pirates need right now as well.
Yeah, the Pirates, their starting first baseman right now, if like the season started tomorrow, is a guy who probably should be playing like second base or center field, like a freak athlete. Just doesn't profile there, and there's really nobody in their system that makes a lot of sense. The Pirates do have a lot of particular second base prospects that are pretty interesting. Gonzalez being one of them. So I don't think that you're going to, like, you might make this offer to the Pirates and they might say, no, Nick Gonzalez is our second baseman of the future. This guy, he hits, or he has hit pretty much everywhere. It took him a little while to get going in the big, or in the pros. But he's a good, solid player now. Again, he could become your everyday second baseman. Like, there's absolutely a path where he plays his way into being that for you. And maybe he's so good this year that you look at Brandon Lau's option and you go like, well, we could just have Gonzalez play second base next year at a fraction of the cost. And so, I like a lot of his profile. There's still some things to work on here. Last year, he didn't hit the ball very hard. He chased a lot. Swing and miss was a bit of a problem. Didn't strike out a ton, but he did swing and miss quite a bit. Didn't really walk at all. So there are some, interesting things in the numbers about Nick Gonzalez. There are some things that aren't so great that you probably have to protect yourself from. Can do a lot of nice things for you, even if he is just a bench player.
Finally.
So I think it makes sense a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I like Nick Gonzalez. He's a guy that I wanted to add in the draft until Emerson Hancock got them. My issues with it are, so I'm assuming what they're going to do here is put Luke Raley at first base. I'm assuming they don't go make another move to add another first baseman.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that maybe Mitch Garver plays some first base in that scenario as well. My issue is if you're trading Tyler Locklear, you were really heavily relying on Luke Raley to be that guy over there at first base.
And Jake Berger.
And I guess.
You're lower on Berger than I think they are then.
I mean, they said he's going to primarily be a DH.
Yeah, and then subbing at first, like, against lefties, and then Luke Raley rides the pine. I think that's more so the direction they go. I'm curious, like, what happens with some of the other guys, like, already on the roster, like a Bliss or
Ryan
Dylan
Bliss,
Moore, like how that kind of shapes out if he's featured in a trade package elsewhere. Because right now the outfield is just the four, and Raley included. Mm-hmm. Donovan, I guess, could go over there as well. So
so could Dylan Moore.
Could Dylan Moore. So it's like, I think they're probably okay there, but we'll see how it kind of what does Nick Gonzalez provide to you outside of like what Dylan Moore can do or like what Ryan Bliss can do? Mm-hmm. Like, it's probably a more consistent bat, which is what Colby was kind of saying, a little bit more swing and miss, sure, but like also the potential for him to grow into more. I think that's probably why the Pirates would want one other piece. It could be like a Caden Polkovich. Like, it could be like an outfielder that can play a little bit of utility. Like, I think he can play second base as well. That like doesn't really do anything for you. And Pirates probably like, okay, sure, at that point.
So we have one more bench trade to go over, and then we'll go over, 26-man roster, some minor league contract offers, all that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Hims and Arena Club.
Hims and Arena Club.
All right, fellas, you ever feel
this
like
episode of the Locked On Mariner Mojo podcast is presented by Water Bottle Moment.
About your performance and get Hims so you can feel confident. Wanted to add another outfielder, especially because with the way that we have this roster constructed, Luke Raley's probably going to play some first base and DH. That's probably going to be his primary role. along with Jake Berger, of course. Those guys are gonna kind of switch off between first and DH.
Early prediction: Mike Tauchman.
Okay, I think that's a fair prediction. I really didn't think I'd be just throwing to the wolves like this. As a bench guy,
Bench outfielder.
I think Tauchman makes a lot of sense. I got to say someone different now.
You can backpack. You can backpack.
No, I don't want to. I don't
All
want
right.
to, but they've talked about Mike Tauchman a lot before.
Oh, have they?
I think so. So I'm gonna say, what the hell's his name? The guy from Miami,
Jesus Sanchez.
Jesus Sanchez.
I think you might be shooting a little high.
Me too. He's not much of a bench guy.
Over the course of the year. So we wanted to add a left-handed hitting outfielder. We went over a lot of names, folks. By the way, we had an ideal profile in mind. We wanted someone with like speed and athleticism and could play some defense. And well, the guy we wound up landing on doesn't really provide that, but he's a good hitter. And he's had two pretty good seasons with the Chicago Cubs the last 2 years. That's Mike Tauchman. Just a veteran left-handed hitter. He's going to get on base. He's going to hit for average.
Full disclosure, I added him to my offseason list today. That's why I said him.
That's fair.
We're trading Ashton Izzy to the Chicago Cubs, right-handed pitching prospect for the Mariners. Tell us a little bit about Tauchman, Colby.
Yeah, it's
Colby.
kind of Seth Smith, Ian, like
Dad?
Gary?
It's there. He's going to be behind, like he's not going to get as many at-bats as Luke Raley. He is very much a bench guy who's going to kind of rotate in when needed. But there is the possibility that, if, for example, Victor Robles falters or whatever, then maybe Raley plays more outfield than we thought, or maybe Tauchman plays more outfield than we thought. So, Tauchman is kind of part of the Victor Robles insurance plan along with Luke Raley, which, by kind of extension kind of makes Jake Berger part of the Victor Robles, insurance plan. So you get a guy who at least pretty high floor, like he's going to get on base. He's going to draw walks. He's going to hit for a pretty decent average. We can pretty much bank on those. And then he pairs with Raley, who's more of a power guy, more of an athlete. But yeah, I think most nights, assuming Robles is, pretty good. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be as good as he was last year, but assuming that he's pretty good most nights, the outfield will be what you think it is. And either Berger or Raley will DH and the other one will play first base, and Tauchman will be on the bench most nights.
It was just Ashton Izzy. He's what, like in the 20s prospect ranking?
AJ Izzy, yeah.
He's not like anything crazy, but Tauchman, I think he's projected either 2.9 or 3. It's probably 2.9 in arbitration. Lefty. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that is fine for a trade package. I don't know if the Cubs would want something more close to MLB ready if you have that in the prospect system, like around that area. Like, I don't think Taylor Dollard's a good like comp for that because like we don't really know what he's doing. It's probably nothing, but like I don't know if the Cubs would bite on it just on the fact it's like a mid-20s pitching prospect, but like what else could they get for Tauchman realistically?
If I'm the Cubs, I would rather have Hunter Cranton.
Whoa, slow down.
I know.
Buddy.
I don't want to trade Hunter Cranton either. I do think that they could find a way to get more from Tauchman, but I think they would want someone who has a chance to at least help them in 2025.
Sure.
Like, I think that they want some, like, AJ Izzy's not going to do anything for you in 2025. And so, I mean, Reed Van Scoter's another guy who may see the big leagues next year.
Like, I would say Jimmy Joyce and him before Izzy, personally, of what the Cubs could want. But I get where like the practice is kind of going with the trade.
I mean, if that's all it takes is Ashton Izzy, I'm in. Like, I'm completely in.
Do it 10 times out of 10.
Personally think it would cost a little bit more, but doesn't matter. It's a bench bat. So
yeah.
So all of our major league additions are Ryan Helsley, Anthony Bender, Jake Berger, Brandon Lowe, Brendan Donovan, Mike Tauchman, and Nick Gonzalez. You can also throw Austin Shitten in there as well because he has major league experience. So before we get into the 26-man roster, we do this every off-season plan where we look at major leaguers who we think might sign minor league deals. We just throw out a bunch of offers out there. Like, these are just guys. We're not saying we're signing all of these guys. It's just these are the guys that we would send out minor league offers to that we think could actually sign minor league deals this offseason. So
Gonzalez number 1. I'm a genius.
You're a genius. Marco, Patrick Corbin, Caleb. No, like you mentioned Yanni Chirinos. I think sometime we were prepping to record a podcast, and you said he was ass. Alex Jackson, bring him home.
Bring Alex Jackson home.
I think Bobby Dalbec would make sense. I think that could be a minor league contract, first base kind of like insurance if Berger's not doing it for you. What?
Look at all the former Mariners.
I know. We're getting the band back together.
Willie Calhoun. I mean, sure. Sam Haggerty, sure. Like minor league contract, sure. Missing a lot of Daniel Vogelbach, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw the fingers crossed over there, hoping for a little Cornelius action. Let's see if they address that.
Marco Gonzalez, why not? Patrick Corbin, Caleb Tealbar, Gio Gallegos, Yanni Chirinos, Adam Simber, John Brebbia, Ryder Ryan, justice for Ryder Ryan, Miguel Castro, Sean Armstrong, Alex Jackson, Bobby Dahlbeck, Tyro Estrada, Joey Gallo, Nick Gordon, Ben Gamble, Edward Olivares, Willie Calhoun, Mariner Killer, and Sam Haggerty. Why not bring Sam Haggerty back? So let's get into the 26-man roster.
Boo!
We are keeping Gabe Spire and Taylor Saucedo. We did tender them contracts because, look, they're barely projected to make more than the league minimum, so why not? Then obviously Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Brian Wu. Rotation stays intact. And then the bullpen, the righties in the bullpen, that is. Edward Bizardo, Anthony Bender, Troy Taylor, Colin Snyder, Ryan Helsley, Andres Munoz. It was very important for us to get that second real high leverage, established high leverage dude in Helsley. And I'm glad that we were able to make that work. As for the position players, Cal Raleigh, Mitch Garver, Brandon Lowe, Nick Gonzalez, JP Crawford, Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena, Victor Robles, Mike Tauchman, Luke Raley, Jake Berger, Brennan Donovan, and Dylan Moore. Do you have any lineups in mind, Colby?
Any thoughts on those initial roster breakdowns, or do you want to see the lineups?
I mean, that's a solid team. That's a team that probably competes for a division. I'd say probably has a really good chance to win the division. Definitely some things that I probably would have done differently. But overall, I mean, I'll address it at the end. I'll address it at the end.
Against lefties, against righties.
I think Robles is probably going to get the first crack at being the leadoff hitter against both sides to start the year, and then I imagine Julio probably slides in and hits second. And then after that, it's kind of, do what you want. It could be Brandon Lowe could hit third, Cal Raleigh could hit third, but more than likely one of those two guys is hitting third. And then Arozarena, because we don't know exactly how Dan's going to like to do his lineups quite yet, but we know that Scott really liked the balance left, right, or right, left. Didn't really like to stack more than two same-handed bats in a row. If you could help it, we don't know if Dan's going to do that or not, but I think something like Robles, Julio, Lowe, Raleigh, probably Randy at that point, hitting 5, and then 6 is probably Raley, 7 is probably Berger, 8 is Donovan, and JP's probably hitting 9th most nights.
If I was doing this lineup, if I was Dan Wilson, I look just like him. I think I would start at Victor. I would probably bat Brendan Donovan too.
I was gonna say, I think Donovan batting 8. I get with where Colby was going with it, like to keep like the really strong heavy hitters kind of like towards the top of the lineup. But Donovan hitting 8th feels like, I mean, that could be a very advantageous spot for him to hit, but also like you could use his bat higher in the lineup, and that's just him saying kind of like opening day. Like if you get to that point, like say like 3 weeks in and like some guys are producing, right, you shuffled around, then Donovan very well could slide into 2. But yeah, I think Donovan's probably the most like one that could see the most variability as far as like where he hits.
I'd probably go Victor, then Donovan, then Julio, then Cal, and then Randy, then Lowe. Like,
Okay.
that was sick. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh.
That was bars.
Those bars were solid. Overall, I think I give it I think I would be like a B+ offseason.
Yeah.
Like
Without signing any free agents like that, I think that's a very good
yeah, true.
like kind of like roster construction. There's some trades that I think you might have to go a little bit more on, or well, I'm not calling them stupid. I did not call them morons, I promise. You'd have to give up a little bit more for. Also, like the Burger trade, they're probably just higher on Burger than I think both of us are. Even I'm like not like as low on him as you are, I think. But overall, like very solid. The bullpen's interesting. Keeping Spire and Sauce, two lefties, is nice. What I think that offseason does is provide a lot of versatility, and there's room for error or regression, whereas this season I think we had a little bit more of like a safety net as the years prior, but we saw much more regression than I think anticipated.
And we talk about it every year. Like, you have to raise the floor of this team, because there are going to be, like, just like a wave, there's going to be some ups, there's going to be some downs. Like, and the Mariners, once all of a sudden Jorge Polanco wasn't hitting and JP Crawford got hurt and wasn't hitting, Julio wasn't hitting, it was like, well, we're screwed. And so I think that because of that, adding a bunch of guys that do make a lot of sense, throughout your roster is definitely the way to go. It's a more complete roster in that way, and I think the boys did a really good job that way.
Well, thank you to Locked On for providing content for us to react to. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our reaction to Locked On Mariners offseason plan 2024-2025. See you at the deadline for another Mariner Mojo reaction.